Hello, people, and welcome to Good Thing, Bad Thing, the podcast where we pull a topic from movies, games, pop culture, and relationships and debate if it is a good thing or a bad thing. I am your host, JABY KOAY. With me is SYNTELL KOAY.
It's your boy, SYNTELL.
Did you pay attention to the polls from last week?
Nah, man. What those numbers looking like?
Dude, we won by like a landslide.
Say word. Hit me with the numbers.
Of course, I start recording before I pull it up. Come on. Load, bitch.
Load, bitch. Get out the way. You know what? I'm kind of old for my voice to still be cracking.
So
Caught you late. No, but it's true. I'll be like, hey, baby.
Okay. So last week, what we talked about was online dating. That's what we debated. And Naomi and Chuck argued for it being a good thing. JABY and SYNTELL argued it being a bad thing. 283 votes. JABY and SYNTELL win 73% to 27%.
Boom, shaka-laka-laka.
You know, I forgot to mention one thing in my argument. I kept getting sidetracked because Chuck was filibustering the fuck out of that podcast.
That's what Chuck does.
So what I realized was we kept arguing under the pretense that all things are equal when it's not. Because they would say, you know, to me, online dating is like you go to a bar and you see someone and you swipe left or right when you look at them. It's like, yeah, that's assuming that looking at their photo is exactly like looking at them in person.
Nah, and that's never the case.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I confronted Naomi about that, and she's like, it's the same.
Of course, she's got to defend her side, even though it's wrong,
Exactly.
and the people have spoken.
Okay, this is going to be a little bit of a different episode, I think, because I believe, SYNTELL, you are going to be on the same page as me with this one.
Okay.
I wanted to talk about the Nintendo NX.
The Nintendo NX.
Yeah, are you familiar with it at all?
Uh-oh, you might have to school me on this.
So the Nintendo NX is the new Nintendo system that's coming out next year. Nintendo's last-ditch effort to save itself is basically what it is.
Oh, it's like its death rattle machine for the most part.
Yeah, it's almost like the Sega Dreamcast.
Oh, hey, man, don't talk shit about the Sega Dreamcast. That was an amazing system.
Well, whether it's amazing or not, this is Nintendo's Dreamcast, right?
Okay.
Now, from what I gather, from what few details I have, it is essentially going to be like the Wii U, except, you know, the gamepad part of a Wii U?
Yeah.
So it's like a big Game Gear, essentially.
Okay.
Nintendo NX is essentially that again, but you can take it with you and go and play, like, on the road, like a Game Boy.
So it's a portable home gaming system.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's exactly how I felt. I'm like, what are you doing, Nintendo? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why? You're going to be competing against your own console and portable console.
Yeah. That's like a severe case of like market cannibalism.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it going to be just that? It's just going to be like this big handheld device and then you just plug the wires into it so it can connect to your television? Or is it going to like seam in wirelessly through Wi-Fi? Or is there another piece that goes with it?
Those details have yet to be revealed. They're going to be revealed fairly soon at the next E3, I'm sure.
That's coming like right around the corner.
Right. But even preliminary details, it sounds like a bad move. It's impossible to say for certain whether this is good or bad, but I'm going to take the stance that this is a bad thing.
I think I might have to agree with you. I think Nintendo, just like Sega, is going to have to go the route of just creating software because and I think this is the number one thing, if they don't have additional licensing outside of their own stuff, if they can't jump into the bigger market that Sony and Xbox are willingly happy to share, they're not going to survive anyway.
Yeah. You know, the thing is, I think that there is a lot of missed opportunities here with this generation of Nintendo. Even the following generation, it seems like they're not recognizing the trend. There's this style of gaming called first-person shooters, and it doesn't seem like they really recognize that that's the majority of games now are these first-person shooters, and they don't recognize that virtual reality, like the VR headsets, is the next coming thing, even though the fucking Oculus Rift has been talked about for years.
Yeah.
And even like Samsung Galaxy's on top of it, where they're like with their 4K resolution phone so that you can use them as a VR headset.
Right.
The Sony, whatever it's called, their VR headset. It's like, dude, that's the fucking trend. What are you doing? Why aren't you recognizing this trend? And the thing is, Nintendo's in trouble. There's an article that came out on IGN.com that discussed just how bad it is for Nintendo. Total units sold of the Wii U to date is 12.8 million. To date.
That's terrible.
That's how much the PS4, I think, sold in its first year or its first quarter or something insane like that.
I knew it was bad as a consumer. I have had every single Nintendo system except
The Wii U.
the Wii U. That's
Yeah.
when I was like, I'm done.
You know, I bought the Wii U right away, and I tried to be one of those guys that bought up multiple Wii U's to resell it on eBay for a buck. It turned out to be the worst move because no one fucking wanted it.
Nah.
Now, I can speak on the Wii U because I've played it a lot. The handheld unit that accompanies it, it's like, I don't think Nintendo recognizes that people don't like clunky shit.
Right.
Now, as much as I like the gamepad, because there are cool things with it, if you're playing a first-person shooter like Call of Duty, you can have your own screen on the gamepad, and someone else can have the TV. So instead of being able to cheat and seeing where your friend is in Call of Duty, you have your own private screen. Right? That's cool. But outside of that, they're forcing this shit down your throat. Like, I just got Star Fox, and I have to use the gamepad to play. Why do I have to use the gamepad? I'm sure you're going to have to use the gamepad for Zelda.
Right.
Most of the games for the Wii U, especially one-player games, you have to use the gamepad. This thing is so clunky, and then you got to look down at it, and it's just kind of awkward.
What surprises me most is when you talk about the Oculus Rift, and that seems like the type of niche market of gaming that Nintendo should have been the very first to grab.
Yeah.
And instead of like, it should have been them first this year actually releasing something with it ahead of PlayStation and Oculus, and I'm sure Xbox is going to have their own variation of it as well.
Yeah.
And then okay, so they missed the mark with that. And then when you brought up earlier about first-person shooters just being like the dominant game that's in the market today, I mean, GoldenEye was my very first real console first-person shooter experience.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't understand how they kicked down the doors, because GoldenEye is still a classic amongst hardcore gamers when it comes to first-person shooters. How do you have that much of a market share as far as how their the people that buy their stuff thinks as far as first-person shooters? How do you let that go and let these other markets dominate you? And now they're missing in the mark again. So it's somebody there needs to be fired.
The president of Nintendo died.
Oh, speaking ill of the dead.
Yeah,
well,
he
do
died, and
apologize.
so he got replaced by, I think, a potentially smarter businessman. Supposedly, he's making better moves, but Nintendo made a lot of fuck-ups. Like, and essentially, we talked about this on the video version of Good Thing, Bad Thing. They essentially invented their enemy, the Sony PlayStation.
Right.
Because Super Nintendo wanted an expansion unit, and they hired Sony to do it, and then they told Sony halfway through development of the PlayStation, you know what, never mind. And Sony's like, fuck you, we're going to make it anyway. And then here comes PlayStation, and it's dominating the market.
Right.
They created their own enemy. And then with the Amiibos,
Right.
the Amiibos was a fucking late response to their mess up, because Skylanders went to Nintendo. I'm sure I've talked about this somewhere. The Skylanders went to Nintendo and said, hey, we've got this great new product. We want you guys to have it exclusively. And Nintendo was like, you know what? No, nah, we're going to pass. So Skylanders was like, you know what? Fine. They basically licensed it to all the systems, and Skylanders became this huge phenomenon. And then Disney jumped on top of it wisely, and they've got their units. And so Nintendo's like, yeah, okay, maybe we need to have one of those things. So they went and made the Amiibos, which are mostly fucking useless.
See, you know what? It's arrogance, because they refuse to even allow their game system to be a part of just your whole entertainment system in general.
What do you mean?
Because you can't really play music on it. It doesn't connect, like the Xbox One connects to your cable services.
Oh.
So your living room entertainment encompass everything the Xbox One is. And so is the PlayStation. My Netflix is through it. My HBO Go is through it. I play music through it.
You can do Netflix on the Wii U.
Well, it's not supposed to be primarily for that. Let's just say like the PlayStation 1, not the PlayStation 1, but the PS4 is supposed to be a living room entertainment system.
Yeah.
Same as the Xbox One.
Yeah.
Whereas Nintendo's mantra has always been, we're going to be strictly a gaming system.
Yeah.
Which is fine if you're allowing yourself to allow all games to come to your system. But how are you going to not make an entertainment system, not have good, hardcore, exclusive games that come out frequently, okay, and not allow third-person software to come into your console as well to help boost market sales? It's the kiss of death. Your arrogance and the fact that you were holding it down and running it in the late 80s and early 90s, they're living in the past, and they think that their name alone is going to save them. But millennials don't give a shit about Nintendo.
Right.
They didn't grow up with it.
Right.
But they still think that name holds weight.
I heard this from a friend of mine, a mutual friend. Basically, Nintendo had a misstep with YouTube. As everyone knows, YouTube has become a place for people to share their gaming experiences.
Okay.
That's a big market in YouTube. that a lot of corporate heads couldn't have anticipated, and people started doing it with their Nintendo games. So instead of Nintendo going, you know what, this is great because people are going to share their experiences with Nintendo games, Nintendo goes, oh, we need to monetize that. That's our product.
Big mistake.
It's like, dude, if people are sharing their experiences with your game, more people are going to be inclined to buy your game. What are you doing, man? I heard that if you try to use Nintendo videos on your channel, they'll basically have rights to 50% of your content. Or something crazy like that. Like they will own much more of you're automatically obligating yourself to pay Nintendo for
That's
stuff
ridiculous.
that's not even theirs.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they're killing themselves. And what's more ridiculous is a disservice to the people that grew up playing Nintendo, because I don't want Nintendo to die. I don't.
Yeah, me neither.
They're necessary in this gaming sphere. There needs to be more than two horses in this race. And right now it's only Xbox and PlayStation as far as console gaming is concerned.
Yeah.
Without that third, it seems like the ingenuity of making good games seems to fall by the wayside. We, as the consumers, are the ones that are going to get punished if Nintendo falls.
Yeah. You know, there is going to be a third one. I think it's called The Shield by NVIDIA. But the thing is, it's going to feel just like the PlayStation and the Xbox in terms of the kind of games it's bringing to the table.
Right.
It's just like, okay, well, why... What do I like? How do I choose? This is the same games on all the systems. So what's
Right.
the point? Nintendo felt like it was bringing something different, but they're just not going about it. Their execution is off, right?
Yeah.
There are a lot of missed opportunities here. So Nintendo's thing that I was happy about, that they kept bringing generation after generation, that Sony and Xbox has basically done away with, is local gaming.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I think that with the Wii U being as small as it is, they should have found a way to build in local area networks. Simple local area networks. Do you know what that is?
Yes.
So it's like, people used to play
Counter-Strike.
Counter-Strike. That's the quintessential PC game that you play on local area network, right?
Right.
Now, I feel like the gamepad could have been a means to do that, because they made the gamepad be like as this attachment to the Wii U, and you only get one of them, and you can't buy another one at the store. When it could have been a thing where, hey, you can buy another gamepad for $50, you can buy 4 gamepads, so all of your friends can play Counter-Strike, Call of Duty, whatever, and you've all got your own screen.
Right.
And the TV can be used as like a mapping system of some kind.
See, that would be brilliant.
That would have been fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Now, the problem there is that the Wii U is just not powerful enough to deliver that kind of gaming, right? So it's like, okay, fine. If you want to make your system cheap so that people can afford it and you can make a buck, because Nintendo doesn't have deep pockets like Sony and Xbox, fine. Make it so that your Wii U's can attach to each other. They're small enough systems they could be portable, basically.
Right.
So you can basically I can bring my Wii U over to your place and attach it somehow to your Wii U, so that we each have our own like gamepad and own like. Wouldn't that be fucking cool? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it's like a reinvention of couch co-op, portable couch co-op.
Yes.
I mean, that would even be amazing. Like if you were like on a road trip or something, or even if you're in the airport or traveling anywhere. I mean, you get console home style gaming and graphics that are better than any handheld device on a portable device, and you still have your home device with you. I mean, it's the best of all worlds. Why that's not going to be in the mix of this new one?
If that's part of Nintendo NX, I am all on board, man. Chips in on that. If they are introducing that, I don't think they are though. I don't think they're trying to make it where you can have a better version of the local area network, because the whole thing is like, there are people who are so hardcore into that, they will bring over their whole computer.
Right.
Just to play local area network games.
Right.
The Wi-Fi technology we have today, the Bluetooth technology we have today is so good that it's easy to make that simple.
Right.
And everyone wants things to be simple and fun.
Right.
That's what Nintendo was introducing with the Wii, and they didn't really go up. The Wii U was a marginal improvement. It's like, okay, here's the Wii again in HD.
Right.
Like, why?
Yeah.
And so no one gives a shit. And the name was confusing. The Wii U, and a lot of parents were like, why? I already have a Wii at home. Why do I need to buy?
Yeah, I was confused. I was like, okay.
And you're
I
a
saw
gamer.
This big, massive controller walking around and stuff. I think Nintendo, I think the biggest highlight of Nintendo is their handheld devices right now. I think that's probably I see that more around more
Even
than I've
that's
seen
suffering.
anybody.
Even that's suffering.
Then they need to figure out a way. Maybe that's what they're doing with this Wii X that they got coming out.
NX.
Wii NX.
Yeah.
They should just focus probably more on a newer version of a Game Boy, of a portable Game Boy that is your console game.
That's what NX is. Nintendo
So
NX,
so if that's what they're doing, then okay, then I kind of tip my hat to that, because right now, what other thing are you adding to the gaming world that the Xbox and the PlayStation hasn't already brought?
Right.
You know, and their handheld gaming is just mad. Well, PlayStation's is. It's nothing really to jump up and down.
No one
about.
cares about it.
Yeah, and Xbox doesn't have one at all.
Well, that's the
So-
thing. That's the thing about portable gaming that Nintendo's failing to realize here is that nobody wants it complicated. Nobody wants to play Uncharted or
Elder Scroll.
Elder Scroll. That's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking of. No one wants to play that on a portable system, and that's what it seems like Sony keeps trying to do. They keep trying to bring you these complicated games. It's like no one wants that shit.
Well, I think that was always been kind of Nintendo's thing.
Exactly.
You know, it's simple gaming that is fun. Their whole attitude has been like, we don't care about graphics. All we care about is fun.
Yeah.
And then you enjoying the video game experience.
Right. I think the Nintendo NX is a misstep because it's not going to be that anymore. It's going to be really complicated. I don't know what the fuck it's trying to do, honestly. But my whole thing is, why aren't you trying to create simple, affordable ways to introduce virtual reality gaming? Like, I was thinking of if you could have wristbands or something like that as a simple means of communicating where your hands are,
Right.
or something you can attach to your fingers that are relatively cheap to make that a VR headset can recognize. Like the Sony had their wand. I forgot what the thing was called, but
Okay.
you know what I'm talking about, right? Where they tried to introduce motion gaming.
Yeah. And it kind of failed miserably.
It failed miserably, but the cheap thing they introduced there to make it easy to read was these bulbs
Right.
on top of the that could have been Nintendo could have used that to their advantage, that kind of technology, some kind of simple thing that glasses could read that would have been within their means, because Nintendo has to make it cheap in order to sustain itself, right? Because they don't have deep pockets like Sony
Right.
or Microsoft. So I feel like there are cheap ways that you can do a VR headset
Right.
and make a profit still.
Right.
And they chose not to do that at all. They chose to merge the Wii U and the Game Boy.
You know what? I think they've lost touch with their market. I think they've lost touch with their buyers, because I think the people that they're still trying to speak to,
Yeah.
their voice,
Yeah.
are all, 30 years old and older. And they're trying to, it seems like they're trying to appease us when they should be looking at these young kids that are 12 to 16, 12 to 18 years old.
Yeah.
And I don't see any of them buying Wii's or Wii U's. I still see the newer versions of the Game Boys around or whatever, but I don't see Nintendo products anywhere
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Anywhere. It used to always be some little snot-nosed kid at the airport with a Game Boy in his hand somewhere. You don't see that anymore.
Part of that is because of the iPad. The iPad came in and kind of Nintendo's not recognizing new trends, man.
That's what I'm saying. They're still trying to talk to us as if we're 14 years old.
Right.
And most people in my age gaming group have pretty much put their middle finger up to Nintendo.
Right. Well, Nintendo missed the boat with mobile gaming because they could have done was
They dominated it for almost 20 years.
Well, when the iPad came in, they should have said, "You know what? There's this new trend. We need to go with the flow. We're going to create software exclusives for the iPad. We're going to work with Apple and be like, okay, just for Apple, not for the Kindle Fire, not for the Samsung tablet,
Right.
but just Apple exclusively. We're going to create games for the App Store."
Yeah, they should have just done software for. But you know what? I think that's going to be the future of Nintendo anyways.
That's what they're doing now, but it's like, dude,
late.
way to be late to the party, man.
They should have done that 7 years ago.
Right. As soon as the iPad launched,
Yeah.
they should have been like, oh, here's an opportunity.
Yeah. So now they're going to go the way of Sega.
Basically. They're going to have to. Software only. So I'm just bummed out that they didn't find a better way. My main point is they didn't find a way to enhance the local area network way of playing when you very easily could have. Because they could have made it where the Wii U, it's like you can have multiple Wii U's in the same room because they're small and cheap. Mm-hmm. And you can bring all your friends can come over together to the same place and have your own monitor with your own Wii U and fucking play first-person shooter games that way. That would have been so cool.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a way of breathing life back into a market that is dying rapidly, and that's, couch co-op.
Basically. Anyway, let's move on. So something happened right before we started recording this podcast that freaked out SYNTELL. We can debate if this is good or bad. I'm gonna go on the side that this is a good thing.
No.
Just so we can debate it.
No. This is not a good thing.
Okay.
So let me go ahead and flesh out the story a little bit.
Okay.
All right, so I'm over here. I'm hanging out. We're getting ready to do the show, and I take a picture of Anthony, and I send it to a friend of mine, just being like, hey, we're over here getting ready to do the show. Here's this picture. Click, click, and I send it off. All right, I have an iPhone. I send off just my regular camera.
Yeah.
And I send it off on a totally different app called Voxer. All right, so I send it off. And then I go into my Facebook Messenger program because I had a message that came in. And as soon as I pull the Facebook Messenger program up, it hits me with an announcement saying, hey, we saw that you took a picture of JABY.
Yeah.
And I'm looking and I'm like, well, how the hell did you know I took a picture of JABY? And it's got his picture is in the Messenger app saying, is this JABY? I'm like, well, yeah. How the hell do you know what JABY looks like, Facebook? I mean, how the hell is your face recognition software so good that out of the hundreds and hundreds of photos that I have on my phone, that you are like, hey, we know this guy, we recognize him, and then it's like, don't you want to share this photograph of JABY?
Yeah.
Nah. No, big brother. No, Facebook. I need you to not know who the fuck I'm taking pictures of. That is disturbing. It messed me up. I showed JABY. I was like, yo, you see this? I'm like, Facebook recognized me taking a picture of you from a totally different program. We are going down a dark, dark path. Because if they can do that, then imagine if you just like walking down the street and like say you're in London, which is like one of the most highly videoed cities in the world right now. There's like a camera. There's like 10 cameras every 100 feet that you walk. And every single one of those cameras recognizes your face, where you're going, what direction you're going to, recognizes the face of whoever it is that you're talking to. That's way too much. And
that's what it is now.
But I know it's like that now, but it's one thing to know something and it's a totally different thing to see it in the flesh.
Okay.
Your name shouldn't be popping up in my phone just because I took a picture. That shit is creepy.
Okay. So here's why it's okay, man. Everyone is giving into the Big Brother anyway, right? And everyone just wants things to be faster, convenient, and easy. So every time I upload photos to Facebook, it goes, hey, is this person this? Is this SYNTELL? Is this your mom? And I'm like, yeah, it is. Cool, thanks, Facebook. You saved me like hours of typing in names.
Yeah, thank you, JABY, for incriminating me.
Yeah.
That's what it is. You have officially snitched on me when I didn't ask for no snitching. All right, so here's another perfect example of that. Okay, you remember when the Xbox One came out?
Yeah.
All right, and it's got the vision, the
where you walk
face
in the
recognition
you walk in
software.
the room and it goes,
yeah,
hey,
exactly. It's like, hey, SYNTELL, welcome. Would you like to play a game?
What's wrong with that?
That's bullshit. I want to be able to walk into my house and not have my appliances know who the hell I am. Because I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen. This is how this story ends.
Okay.
You go in and get a traffic ticket and you go to court to fight your traffic ticket. And the next thing you know, your Xbox is sitting on the stand. And you're like, oh, well, besides the traffic ticket he did, Judge, did you know that he's been chopping up cocaine and selling drugs and weed on the side? I've seen it. Look, I've got these pictures.
Yeah.
The judge is going to be like, oh, shit.
That's illegal.
It's not.
That's illegal.
For now.
There's no legal grounds for that. Like, people
legal grounds? I didn't sign any type of information for your phone to recognize who the hell I am.
Here's the thing. Like, anything. There was a whole court battle. There's a battle between the FBI and Apple about this because that terrorist's phone was locked, and the FBI was like, "Hey, Apple, can you unlock this shit?"
Hell no.
And Apple was like, "No, because that would be a violation of human rights."
Yes.
And Apple refused to the end. And then what happens? Did you hear? Like the FBI was like, "Oh, we figured it out. We don't need your help anymore." And Apple's like, "Okay, after you do that, can you please tell us how you did it? Because we need to make our software better."
See, this is too much.
But
it's too much, man. I can't.
Here's my thing. What is the problem with it? Like that example you use is hyperbolic. Like, give me a real world example where that actually matters. Like
of why I don't want to know why I want to remain anonymous.
Yeah.
It was real simple. What if somebody that doesn't like me or has some type of issue or whatever hacks my phone and they get all that face recognition software and then they have access to a God knows how much information of anywhere my face has been?
Yeah, and then what? Where you been? Where you hiding, man?
It doesn't matter. That's the point. It doesn't matter what I do in my private time. That's my private time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't care if I'm knitting an Afghan. You know, that's what I want to do. Or if I'm chopping up weed and getting ready to sell it. Not that I would do that. I'm just saying. I'm giving just random examples or whatever. What I do in the privacy of my own home, I don't want my TV looking at me and knowing where the fuck I am.
Yeah.
I don't want my phone, and I sure as hell don't want anybody I know's phone recognizing me.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Because what if you're someplace you don't need to be? Not because you're doing any dirt, but you. Well, man. Well,
But what if like, okay, let's use an extreme example real quick, and we'll wrap this up. What if your kid, God forbid, gets kidnapped?
Well, yeah, I'd want all their face recognition software.
There you go.
Okay, but that's a totally different situation. And you know what? And I would gladly, I'll say this, I would sacrifice the right for me to find my kid with facial recognition for everybody in the world to have privacy. I would. It's
really?
worth it. I would, because privacy is important, man. It is.
Right.
I mean, we don't want to live our entire life in public. I didn't sign off on for everybody knowing everywhere I want to be at all given times.
Right.
Because it's only a matter of time before people have access to everything.
Yeah.
It's just, there's no such thing as 100% security.
Right.
That's why I always tell people, I'm like, yo, be careful with the stuff you put on Messenger and Facebook and Snapchat, because it's not a question of if, it's just a question of when everybody's going to have access to everything you've already done today and the stuff that you've done in the past. So you should know that all of that is going to get cracked.
Right.
It is. It's inevitable.
Right.
So when that does happen and they're like, oh, you see on CNN, all the information you need to know on every social media just got leaked to the internet, and everybody and their mama's clicking the site and putting in ex-boyfriends and girlfriends and wives and spouses so they can go down and look through all their timeline and private messages and all that shit, you're going to wish you had this type of privacy.
Yeah.
And us going down this path of facial recognition, for me taking a random pic, is just an ugly step into the rabbit hole, man, that none of us are going to be prepared for.
Yeah. All right, man. I retract my stance. It is a bad thing. When you put it like that with your fucking endless soapbox shit, fine. All right, well, this was a fun episode. You guys, please, I don't even know if I'm going to put a poll on this one. There's like no point, because it's two bad things.
Two bad things. It's just what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what? I'll put a poll out for the Nintendo one. Okay. You guys let us know if you agree with us, if it's a good thing or a bad thing. So vote it up on Twitter or vote it down. Both SYNTELL and I think it's a bad thing. So anyway, thank you guys again. I am JABY KOAY.
And it's your boy, SYNTELL.
Peace out.